Hello and welcome to your Newsmax Now update. I'm John Bachman. Dozens of world leaders are in South Africa today to celebrate the life of iconic anti-apartheid leader Nelson Mandela. During the ceremony, President Obama raised some eyebrows by shaking hands with Cuban President Raul Castro. Castro smiled during the rare contact between the two. Obama was joined by Presidents George W. Bush and Bill Clinton as part of the U.S. delegation. South African President Jacob Zuma and UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon also took part in the ceremony that took on a celebratory mood. In an address that drew thunderous applause, President Obama called on South Africans to apply the lessons of Mandela and act on his behalf and on the behalf of peace and justice.
While I will always fall short of Madiba's example, he makes me want to be a better man.
Meanwhile, back in Washington, Secretary of State John Kerry is trying to convince Congress to stall new sanctions against Iran. Kerry is testifying today in the midst of a strong push from a bipartisan group of senators for new sanctions against the Islamic Republic. The administration is fiercely opposed to the idea of any sanctions in this stage of the game, any new sanctions. Iran is counting on both sides to respect the Geneva Agreement so they can build confidence after 4 decades of poisonous relations. Iran's deputy foreign minister recently said that more sanctions could force that temporary thaw in the relationship to come to a close.
We do not trust what the American government does, and it is natural that the same feeling is there in America. What is important for the time being is we are entering into a new phase.
Also in D.C., Congress is working on a budget deal that could be announced this week. That deal could include an uptick in airline fees for customers to cover the rising cost of security at airports. And another partial shutdown of the government in Washington this week, but this time the weather is to blame. Non-emergency government workers were told to stay home Tuesday as the region continues to be pounded by snow and ice. Public schools in a number of areas, including Washington, as well as Philadelphia and parts of Kentucky and Tennessee, are also closed because of winter weather. The snow comes on the heels of this weekend's winter storm, which dumped several inches of snow on Philly and northern Maryland, as well as other parts of the country. And investigators continue to search for a family missing in the remote parts of Nevada. James Glanton and Christina McEntee, their 2 kids along with a niece and nephew, reportedly went sledding on Sunday, but they never returned home. Meanwhile, temperatures in the area have plummeted to well below freezing. These 6 people were last seen in a silver Jeep about 20 miles from their home. And next up, a Newsmax exclusive with former Ohio Attorney General Ken Blackwell. House Speaker John Boehner says the GOP needs to be more sensitive to women. What does Blackwell have to say about that? Plus, an immigrant is rescued at sea. Next, the latest on the Coast Guard's search for others. And the U.S. Coast Guard found the body of a suspected immigrant and rescued another off the coast of South Florida today. Officials say the rescued 42-year-old man was taken to the hospital in critical condition. That man was found aboard a homemade raft of 4 inner tubes tied together. He told the Coast Guard that 3 other people were also in the raft with him. The Coast Guard is still searching for those who are not yet accounted for. And Republicans are quote-unquote foolish to respond to complaints the GOP is waging a war on women, says Ken Blackwell, a former Ohio Secretary of State. He told Newsmax TV this during an exclusive interview. Blackwell's comments come just days after House Speaker John Boehner said the Republican Party must be more sensitive to women.
It would take someone with his or her head stuck in the ground to say that Republicans have a difficult time of communicating their message.
That's it for this edition of your Newsmax Now update. I'm John Bachman. The Steve Malzberg Show is live now from New York.